TGIF and good Friday evening, all you weather geeks out there. This evening we have another action-packed video for you with a motherload of cold coming next week, and we've got some snow to talk about over the next several days as well. First things first, it was a cold afternoon, but it turned out to be a pretty sunny one, and I pointed our Boardman camera west and caught a really nice sunset time-lapse style this evening. There it goes. Always nice when there's no clouds on the horizon. We get a nice clean sunset on these time lapses. I really like taking those. So it was a good looking end of the day, but it was the very definition of ineffective sunshine today, with wind chills near zero this afternoon, temperatures going nowhere. We reached this high of 25 today just after midnight. We spent the afternoon in the teens. You know, hard to believe on a cold day like this, but January's been a warmer than average month. We're still running a surplus of 3.2 degrees, mostly thanks to the first, say, 9 days of the month. Ever since then, yes, we've had a few warmer than average days, but we've had some legit cold as well. The first 9 days of the month really skew the numbers somewhat this time around. All right, Mahoning River at Leavittsburg. No longer a flood warning in effect here, as we've dropped below that minor flood stage of 10 feet. Pretty messy up here in parts of southwestern Trumbull County with water and ice-covered roadways. We played some video on 21 News at 6. We'll have another report tonight at 11 of some of the problems they're having in this area, and we still have a flood warning out for Eagle Creek near Phalanx Station, with the last reported reading at 11.43 feet at 6 p.m. So this flood warning remains in effect. Still some problems around the Braceville area, and I would expect that to continue tonight before finally it recedes as we kick off the weekend. All right, winter storm warning still up in southwestern New York, and they've gotten a fair amount of snow up here today. Now, by western New York standards, you think we're hardy around here. In western New York, this is nothing. This is flurries. 6 to 12 inches of snow, fairly common in what they call the South towns, south of Buffalo. Also done pretty well in some areas east of Buffalo. Interesting that they have a couple of localities that have familiar names to us here in our area: Hermitage and Akron, New York. Several inches of snow up there. That's where snow showers continue this evening, and our next weather maker is actually this little guy out here. Doesn't look like a whole lot. It's not a whole lot, but this will spread some light snow our way as we head through the overnight hours tonight. Clouds will increase over the next several hours. I don't think it starts snowing in most spots until the wee hours of the morning. This will be before daybreak, but if you happen to be up early on a Saturday morning, it's going to be really cold, and every flake of this can try to stick. So just be on the lookout for some slick spots. I would expect accumulations by daybreak tomorrow morning to be an inch to less, or inch or less, I should say. A half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, I think will be pretty common. Daylight hours tomorrow. Another little weak system cruising through, and it could try to snow a little bit at just about any point tomorrow. A lot of the times this won't be much more than flurries, but occasionally you'll get a decent snow shower that can, again, provide some fresh coatings, and I can't even rule out during the daylight hours tomorrow that we see upwards of an inch. I think there's a better chance of seeing an inch or so worth of snow tomorrow night. And so, again, if you're an early morning riser and you'll be out and about on the roads Sunday morning, watch for some slick spots. I think we're in better shape by Sunday afternoon. Now, some interesting model trends since last evening with this Arctic cold front and warm front actually preceding it. The model trends today have been to take the snow with the warm front and push it north on Monday. It looked yesterday like it was going to snow here midday and afternoon on Monday. Now it looks like that's going to push north. We'll get into a dry slot and actually a pretty decent warm-up on Monday, with a high of 37 now in the forecast. But eventually, we're living on borrowed time here. Eventually the cold front's going to come through. Just a quick review again tonight through the weekend. Well, this is what I call kind of nickel and dimed. Half an inch to an inch here, half an inch to an inch there, all the way through Sunday morning. Unlike last weekend, no big storms, but a few minor little nuisances. All right, with this next system, we may turn warm enough Monday night for a time that we may see some raindrops for a time, but that'll be short-lived. This is the model depiction at 1 a.m. That's probably when our temperatures peak. Might see some raindrops, but then the cold air is going to rush in, and when it rushes in, it's going to rush in. Temperatures are going to drop like a rock during the daylight hours on Tuesday. I think there'll be a band of snow along and even behind the front on Tuesday. We call this an anafront sometimes when you see a precipitation shield behind a boundary. So a little geeky meteorology for you there, but some of the modeling is showing that in the wake of the cold front, it may snow steadily for a handful of hours, and you're going to notice the wind and temperatures plunging, wind chills plunging as well, and still a very nasty day coming up on Wednesday with a wind all day with isobars like this the wind will not relax much during the day on Wednesday. So our modeling here for the snow, again, it looks like nothing on Monday now. Monday night and into Tuesday, especially late Monday night and into the day on Tuesday, I think there can be a couple or even perhaps a few inches worth of snow. I don't think it's a huge storm or anything, but could be enough to shovel. And with the Arctic air pouring in, this stuff is going to turn into a glacier pretty quickly on Tuesday. And so, you know, this could be a real pain in the patoot on Tuesday. All right, as far as the wind chills go during midweek, whether you look at the European model, the GFS model, it doesn't matter. It's going to be really, really cold. Probably the wind chills bottom out late Wednesday night, first thing Thursday morning, probably somewhere in the vicinity of -30. And then slowly recover on Thursday, but still stay way below zero. The wind should relax on Thursday, but even a little breeze with temperatures only around 2 or 3 degrees above zero would create a wind chill. As far as records go, minimums, I'm not going to talk about record low maximums or record low high temperatures just yet, but as far as the overnight low records, the forecast for Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, -2. The record is -8. But I think the records for Thursday and Friday are both in jeopardy. Those records are reachable. These are pretty old records. Not many recent years on these records, the most recent being 1971. So these records date back a ways. So we're going to be flirting with records, it looks like, with our cold snap later on in the week. One thing you'll be hearing a lot about, the polar vortex. You know, I did a little explainer on this earlier today on social media, but in case you missed it, you know, the polar vortex, what it is not is a storm. It's not something that hits you. You know, if you hear the polar vortex will hit the Midwest, you know, that's not how it works. It's not something that's going to hit your house like a tornado. The polar vortex is always there. It's not new. When it's strong and really cooking around the Arctic regions, really spinning really fast, it keeps all the cold air bottled up here. When the polar vortex breaks down and weakens and gets disturbed, that's when it kind of spreads out a little bit. Kind of takes on almost like an amoeba shape. If you kind of do one of these, if you just look at the gray areas here, that's kind of the polar vortex. And little lobes or spokes of the polar vortex come south. Sometimes they go into Asia or Europe. But sometimes they come down into North America, and this one will come particularly far south. This lobe of the polar vortex, we haven't really seen something like this since February of 2015, it coming this far to the south. So that's why this is going to be a pretty severe Arctic outbreak. We had a cold, you know, -11 for a low last January in 2018. We've had some cold winter nights in the last couple of years, but I suspect not only here locally, but across a lot of the Great Lakes and upper Midwest, this will definitely rival some of the cold snaps we had back in January of 2014 and February of 2015. So stay up to date on what's going on with the weather this weekend with Chris Sarinelli on WFMJ Weekend Today. Andrew DePaulo will be in on 21 News at 6 and 11. Saturday and Sunday, they'll both have a little bit of snow to show you. Be careful on the roads this weekend. I'll see you back here on Monday for a fresh edition of Weather for Weather Geeks and a fresh update on how cold we expect it to be next week.